Hello and welcome to a new podcast series with me, Leon Joel Russell, Karen Parente and Brianna G. And together we'll be reading and working our way through the Course in Miracles pamphlet, A Song of Prayer. Enjoy. How are you both?
Good.
Excellent. True prayer. Let's pick it up again. So we did the first four sections last time, or the first four paragraphs of this section. And we got ourselves up to part 5, which is just as gorgeous as the rest. Let's have a look at this. Prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. It should not be confused with supplication of any kind, because it is a way of remembering your holiness. Why should holiness entreat, being fully entitled to everything love has to offer? And it is to love you go in prayer. Prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There's nothing to ask because there's nothing left to want. That nothingness becomes the altar of God. It disappears in Him. This is not a level of prayer that everyone can attain as yet. Those who have not reached it still need your help in prayer because their asking is not yet based upon acceptance. Help in prayer does not mean that another mediates between you and God, but it does mean that another stands beside you and helps to raise you up to Him. One who has realized the goodness of God prays without fear, and one who prays without fear cannot but reach Him. He can therefore also reach His Son, wherever He may be and whatever form He may seem to take. Praying to Christ in anyone is true prayer because it's a gift of thanks to His Father. To ask that Christ be but Himself is not an entreaty. It is a song of thanksgiving for what you are. Herein lies the power of prayer. It asks nothing and receives everything. This prayer can be shared because it receives for everyone. To pray with one who knows that this is true is to be answered. Perhaps the specific form of resolution for a specific problem will occur to either of you. It doesn't matter which. Perhaps it will reach both if you are genuinely attuned to one another. It will come because you have realized that Christ is in both of you. That is its only truth.
Wow, beautiful.
Mm.
What really struck me about that was how it sounded exactly like the explanations of practicing forgiveness. Like as soon as you read paragraph 5, I thought to myself, wow, the way this is being described is because it says prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be one, to be at one with love.
Mm.
um that is what practicing forgiveness is, and in here it's talking about your brother and praying with your brother. It's, to me, it's just another way of describing what practicing forgiveness is. And it also struck me that this process of prayer that he's teaching here, not the world's version of how you're praying because you think you lack something, you think you need something, but the course's version leads to the miracle, because the miracle is knowing your truth. Well, how do you know that? By praying. How do you pray? By being one with Holy Spirit, by this letting go, this stepping aside he's talking about right at the beginning of paragraph 5. We have to step aside and let go and have that quiet time of listening and loving. That is allowing Holy Spirit to enter your mind, which is the same as what he's talking about, this praying to Christ, because that is our oneness. We are the Christ is the oneness of who we are. We are the one child of God. And that is the same as practicing forgiveness. When you know that everyone and everything out there is Christ, that we are all one, we are the one innocent child of God. So I had never quite made that connection before, that this how do you get to the miracle? By praying. How do you pray? By stepping aside and letting Holy Spirit take over your mind. So that's what became very clear to me with these paragraphs.
Wow, beautiful.
I agree 100. And as we get into the ladder of prayer, the ladder of prayer, I learned from Ken by listening to Ken that that is actually the process of forgiveness. So this whole course really is about forgiveness, right? And everything you shared, in addition to everything you shared, because I loved everything you shared, um, it does take practice. You know, for me, it's been taking practice, especially the stepping back, stepping aside, not thinking I know, um, and not praying the fear. There has to be no fear. One who prays without fear cannot but reach him because, you know, when I was going through this physical stuff, I was like really fearful because they wanted to give me a Prolia. I don't know if you ever heard of Prolia, but it's for osteo. I have osteo, and the surgery that I needed was intensive spine fusion surgery, and for severe scoliosis and so many things that too much to get into. But I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. Anyway, I was really scared. I mean, I was scared to get this chemical that we were just talking about, you know. And so I kind of went in it with fear. There was like this fear and faith. It was like a mixture, but there was still fear there because it was scary, you know. But I
Mm.
had to trust, you know, I had to trust. And so now I'm here. Here I am. I'm on the Prolia. And it's definitely something that I'm in a trust mode right now because there's things they don't tell you, you know, like the main thing is the price. It's a very expensive drug that insurance doesn't cover a lot of. So there's a lot of things I'm tied into now. And if you get off of it, you have more of a chance for a fracture if you get off it. So it's like, you know, Holy Spirit, you know, like I need you to just like guide me through this right now. So I'm just stepping back. I'm doing what this is saying right now. I'm stepping back. I'm stepping aside. You know, I'm just listening. I'm being still. I'm trying not to have the fear because the fear is very distracting and very not of God, you know. So knowing that there's really nothing that I'm already perfect, whole, and complete. You know, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. The script is written. I trust and I'm doing everything that I possibly can to keep my health good, you know, while I'm going through these chemical changes in the body. Um, so I think the fear is a big factor for me, letting go of fear, because one who has realized the goodness of God prays without fear. There's a trusting there. And one who prays without fear cannot but reach him. So I'm going to reach God when I let go of the fear and I totally trust. And I know that everything is happening perfectly. And this true prayer that he's talking about here is like true perception. It's seeing through the eyes of Christ. And what you said too, Brianna, I totally agree. It is like forgiveness. And this praying to Christ in anyone is
Mhm.
true prayer because it is a gift of thanks. It's this gratitude that we see our brother, the face of Christ in our brother, and remember God. We see that we are all the same, that there is no separation, you know, and this form, this body doesn't mean anything, you know? So there's a lot of trust involved, a lot of gratitude, and yeah, just beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful.
And a reorientation was the word that I found myself thinking about as well, you know, in terms of historical meaning of what prayer symbolizes and is, and that why wouldn't that be something to be challenging at first, because it's like what's just been described. So I'm not asking for anything, I'm just in communion, I'm in communication by having an open channel, and I'm not the orientation of saying towards me stuff, please, please, the classic supplication prayers of like, I need this, I need that, or I'll never do this again, God, if you give me A, B, C, all of that kind of stuff, compared to like, right, okay, this is an open channel. And if I come to that channel with this orientation of like, I'm already in possession and I just want to sit in the vibe of gratitude, of just going, wow, I've already got this. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already in ownership of all of it because it was given to me at the point of creation. And yet there might be somebody else who hasn't, like it says, got that capacity at the moment, but that doesn't matter because you can pray, be in that state of prayer on behalf of the one mind that seems to be fractured into 8 billion human beings.
Which is the same as practicing forgiveness, because as we see another is how we see ourselves. And that fear that you were talking about, Karen, or even what you were just talking about, Leon, about praying for things that you think you're lacking, the fear, the bodily stuff that you're talking about, Karen, is coming from ego identification, believing that we're a body, being afraid of losing the body, believing that this is who we are. And then what you were saying, Leon, praying for things that we think we're lacking and that we need. Again, it's all about ego identification. So whether you're, to me, it's just semantics. Whether you're talking about true prayer or you're talking about practicing forgiveness or you're
Mm.
talking about being one, the one child of God, being Christ, it's all just semantics for the same thing of who we really are.
Mm.
And all this fear, whether it be fear of losing your life, what we think is our life, or fear of not having enough while we appear to be alive in this avatar body, all of that is coming from ego identification. So, what is being described to us here is how to basically become one with Holy Spirit, which is the same as becoming one with Christ, and which is the same as becoming one with God. Again, it's all semantics. These characters, I say this all the time on my channel. These characters are not real. Jesus is not real. Holy Spirit is not real. The only thing that's real is God and us as the one child of God. And in a sense, that delineation isn't even real because we are God. We're all one. It's all the same. So, in this fractured world that we think we live in, fractured meaning separated, we need these semantics. We need these different characters.
Yeah.
We need these different explanations. We need these different angles to look at the truth from to hit those different areas of our brain, basically, because we're dense as egos. We're trying to get the light in there in any crack or crevice that they can find. And I think that this course is genius the way it's written because it does say the same thing over and over and over again in hundreds of different ways, doing it from different angles, different perspectives, over and over and over again with different semantics. And it's like a hypnosis process in a sense to me. Actually, your wife would probably be able to make this comparison much better than I, Leon. Where I've always felt like the course, and this is part of its beautiful the way that it's written, in this Shakespearean
Yeah.
beautiful way where it lulls my mind into truth. It lulls my resistance into submission because it's so beautiful, much like a lullaby will rock a baby to sleep. It's kind of rocking our ego resistance to sleep and awakening our spirit self, to come out and relax into God,
Yeah.
using Holy Spirit as the through line, to get to God. So I just have so much, just as I have expressed how much I love your creativity, Leon, and I love that you're musical and you can bring all this beauty, to these discussions and add that extra layer of, this lulling that I'm talking about, this beauty. I have the same appreciation for Jesus, this character, this made up character, which is just our higher mind called Jesus, that made this beautiful piece of art called A Course in Miracles to sing our minds into truth, which there was Holy Spirit talking to me because what's this called? The Song of Prayer. And I just said, sing our minds into it, which was not pre planned at all, people. This is what happens when you let Holy Spirit talk to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Superb, beautiful.
Yeah, I love what you said too about, identifying with the ego, and it's learning to identify with the Holy Spirit, which is just our higher self. That's all it is. It's nothing, no big fancy thing. And learning to identify with that and listen to that voice. And you know, in the course, Jesus says that that was listening to that one voice was, I think it was the last lesson that he learned. So, it's definitely a practice. It's definitely not always easy, and distinguishing, learning to distinguish between the ego and the Holy Spirit. Well, if there's fear, obviously, I'm not listening to, the Holy Spirit. But also, this last paragraph. I mean, he's really reminding us that it's all about forgiveness, seeing our brother as the same, but being grateful for what we are, being grateful for what our brother is. And as Leon said, asking for nothing because we already have everything, but it asks nothing and receives everything. It already has it. So that is just the knowledge of that, knowing that makes it so much easier to trust because it's already over, it already happened. If I'm identifying with the body and I'm in fear, then I'm making up a story, and then I can recognize that and see what I'm doing, and Holy Spirit can reel me in. Show me the truth here. Help me to see this differently because right now I'm in a lot of fear and I'm believing this body figure and what's going on with this body. And I'm always showed this is my classroom teaching me that I am not this body. And I love how it will come because you have realized that Christ is in both of you, and that is the only truth. So we see it in our brother because we know it's the truth in us, so we know it's the truth in him. We can't deny it anymore. So I don't get triggered like I used to. It's so beautiful to see that, I am responsible for what I see. It's not my brother. It's not what my brother's doing. It has nothing to do with doing. It has to do with my mind and which teacher I'm listening to. So this is just reminding me to, listen, 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 listen.
And healing takes place now.
Yeah.
It can't take place in the future. That doesn't exist. Or, mind you, I do like that thing where it talks about forgiveness and you can forgive the past.
Mhm.
You can, although it says salvation is now, obviously, in the course, I think that's a really helpful tool to be able to understand that you only exist in the moment
Yeah.
and the moment is now. Now is the closest approximation to eternity. And forgiveness and this form of prayer that we're being pointed towards here are both like a passive presence where we are accessing the bounty, if you like, by removing our ego identification. So although we understand that all healing happens in this moment because this is all that there is, and this healing can't happen outside of you, I've found great peace in realizing that I'm just going to use the word project, project fear and project forgiveness into my past. And I'm not, my life isn't, excuse me, isn't littered with lots of regrets in terms of like behavior that I'm uncomfortable with. It's literally like a handful of moments where I might have been done something as a kid, where I think, God, why did I do that? And it gives you that, oh God, and then it's like, well, then you can forgive that moment in the past that doesn't exist anymore. So I love that thing about forgiveness that transcends past, present, and future, even though
Victimization
it
stories.
only. Beg your pardon?
I said, or all of our victimization stories from the past where we believe that other people are at fault for,
Mm-hmm.
whatever we're feeling right now. That's something else we can forgive, and to go into the past to forgive. Well, we call it going into the past, but there's only the now moment. And whether it be you having the ick of something that you remember that you did years ago, or forgiving someone else that we think victimized us, that past never existed. The only reason it appears to have any power over us is because in this now moment, we are having the belief that we did something wrong or that they did something wrong. So it really is always changeable within the now moment because it only ever has to do with a belief. And
Yeah.
it's always false. These beliefs are
Mm.
false.
So the
And
only
so,
real the only real thing that's happening in terms of activity is on a mental level.
yeah. But I also wanted to point out in paragraph 7, line 8, it says, perhaps the specific form of resolution for a specific problem will occur to either of you. It does not matter which. So that's that the overtones, the echo that we were talking about last week,
Mm.
where so he does mention here, that line is telling us, well, but also in the meantime, while you believe this world is here and you think you're real and you think other people are real, when you're doing this form of praying, which is like practicing forgiveness, knowing your truth, identifying with truth of who you and everyone else really is, when you do that, speaking of frequencies and all of that, if you're in that frequency, the frequency of love, the frequency of Holy Spirit, boom, all of a sudden answers start to come in your illusory matrix in your dream. Little droplets of answers to your pretend problems can appear when you do that. It's a side effect. It's not the purpose. The purpose isn't to say I'm lacking this thing or I have this problem, therefore Holy Spirit come fix it for me. No, the purpose is to remember who and what you really are. And when you do that and you're in that place and that frequency and you're identifying correctly, that's when the answers appear to come within the dream
Mm.
because you've now aligned with your true self. And since the script is already written, all the answers are just there waiting for you. Your mind just has to be ready to receive them. And
Mm.
I'm ready to receive them by identifying with your true self.
Yeah. And along with what Leon said about all healing occurs in the present moment, it's
Mhm.
only because it's only happening right now. And the Holy Spirit is only right now. The Holy Spirit is not in the past. The Holy Spirit is not in the future. And this brings me to lesson 194. I place the future in the hands of God. And in paragraph 4, sentence 1, he says, God holds your future as he holds your past and present. They are one to him, so they should be one to you. So this also for me coincides with reincarnation. Like to me, that's the same thing. It's all happening now. I was just thinking about that. So reincarnation it's also like you even think about like even last week, right? We were here together last week. That was last week. It was the past. And it's like, but it's all happening now because we were talking about it. So it's in our mind, right? Everything is in our mind. It's all stored there. So all these lifetimes are stored in our mind. So they're happening now.
Yeah.
That's what, came to me the other day. I'm like, yeah, because I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in all that stuff. I believe that everyone in your life that is close to you, children, parents, wife, husband, dogs, right? That they were someone in your past life and they will be someone in your next life. If you believe in that, I believe in that. And so this is all happening in my mind now because it's so interesting to me and so mind blowing. But we can forgive the past, as Leon said, we can forgive the past now, and that is not feeling guilt now because the linear time that Ken Wapnick talks about a lot is the ego's use of time, which is past, which is the sin, the present, which is the guilt, and then the future, which is the punishment. So I'm still believing in this past of something I did or someone did to me. Now I'm feeling guilt in the present, and I'm going to fear punishment, which is like the fear of death that the Course talks about. So it's that, but the Holy
Mm.
Spirit knows nothing about that. It's all right now. And that's the beauty of recognizing that it's all happening now and we forgive it now. And there's no guilt in the present. There's no body in the present. He tells us the body doesn't even exist. You don't even feel the body. If you're really doing this correctly, he says you don't even feel the body, It's like, whoa, right? And I've had
Mhm.
glimpses, but I mean, it's just amazing stuff. The amazing thing is that the power of prayer, the power of God, the power of the Holy Spirit is only right now. The holy instant where I can't hold your past to you, I can't worry about the future. I'm only seeing you right now. It's beautiful.
Mm.
It's the way to live. It's the way to really live. That's living A Course in Miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Course absolutely supports this idea of reincarnation because it tells us when we practice forgiveness that we're saving ourselves thousands, possibly thousands of lifetimes.
Yeah.
It tells us. So it's telling us that reincarnation is something that we've got going on in our dream. And it's a way to continuously keep us on the ego hamster wheel and always feeling guilty and always, punishing or being punished or whatever. Um, and it reminded me when you were saying that, Karen, that sometimes when I feel inspired or remember to do so, I will not only practice forgiveness for a specific moment that appears to be in my dream right now, is this Avatar Brianna and my story of my life in this current lifetime. I will take a moment sometimes to forgive all the lifetimes that I ever have or will have.
Wow.
And when I do that, I can feel the power of it in the moment. And I can feel that oneness of all the lifetimes, that they're all kind of acting out the same thing, just with, what appears to be different time periods, different costumes we're wearing, different characters we're playing in the group dynamics of these groups that we're incarnating with over and over again. In Gary Renard's last book about I don't remember the exact title, but it's about Jesus and Buddha and their previous lifetimes. And it really shows what you were talking about, Karen, that this is work. He had to do it too. He didn't fully get it until the end, until he was being crucified. That was his final lesson, the final judgment for him to know that the only thing that mattered was God and the only thing that was real was God. But in the meantime, he had to go through all his lifetimes and his lessons. And even in that last one is Jesus, or Yeshua, he had plenty of uh forgiveness lessons all throughout it. So it's not like it was a done deal, the moment he arrived in his body. It took that particular lifetime to be the final one where he finally got it. But when you do read about his other lifetimes, you see the themes that were repeated over and over again. And there he was incarnating with Buddha and Mary over and over and over again, playing different roles and, different characters. And I definitely can feel that from my perspective when I allow Holy Spirit to allow me to forgive for all the lifetimes. And it feels incredibly powerful when I do that. So much more powerful than forgiving just a single character within my dream life now. Not that that's not powerful, it is. But because I don't have to know about those other lifetimes. Holy Spirit knows. I don't need to know. I'm just acting out my part, my avatar part in this particular lifetime. So, Holy Spirit is the higher aspect of my mind. So, if I trust Holy Spirit and with Holy Spirit, enter into even what we're talking about here prayer, true prayer, when I know that all of these lifetimes and all of these characters and all these lifetimes have never really existed and no one has ever really done anything wrong to anyone ever, and that we are all love and we are all whole and we are all one. I can't even describe it. I mean, the relief that just comes over me when I practice that. So again, the reincarnation is just another tool for us to use within our classroom to awaken. So we can start with this body in this lifetime and our so-called problems that we have in this particular lifetime, but you can definitely, there's always room to go further out in your perspective. Like
Yeah.
That's a great share. That's a excellent practice. Just extend the forgiveness to all of those lifetimes. And also, I think because everybody's go-to thing will be like, the section, is reincarnation so? And they can all, well, not all, but a lot of people can kind of recite verbatim or thereabouts that first couple of sentences and go, reincarnation doesn't exist. So to bring to the awareness that line that you quoted about the thousands of lifetimes that we can save, I think that's a really, really powerful um, practice and learning tool as well, because it's not everybody's first consideration. And one thing that kept going round listening to you guys was just the memory of God returns to the quiet mind.
Mm, my
Just
favorite.
going over and over, and something I was doing a few nights ago in meditation. And I don't know, I don't remember consciously setting out to do this, but I was going beyond just the throwaway kind of thing of going, Leon isn't real, to like literally just looping that round and round. Leon isn't real. Leon isn't real. Leon isn't real. So that it was like playing on loop without me having to effectively say it in my mind. So then I could lean into what that really meant, of just like Leon isn't real. It's just like something that I've heard come up, off my tongue, off my lips or whatever, to like Leon isn't real, Leon isn't real. And really tiny little mantra, if you like, to just go further and further into it and just think what's involved in like actually taking that seriously, and then the memory of God returning to the quiet mind. Because if Leon isn't real, what is real? It's the
That's the important part. You've got to replace it. I forget which Gary Renard book it is, but it's in one of them where Arten and Persa are talking about, well, they're talking about Buddhism, because of all the religions on the planet, A Course in Miracles is most similar to Buddhism. And they were talking about how many Buddhists are depressed because they only know the illusion part. They only know the part where we're not real, but it hasn't been replaced with God and what is real. And that causes depression. So they talk about how important it is. Yes, you want to understand you're not real and the world isn't real, but you also want to understand what is real,
mm,
which takes me back to what you were just saying about, reading a certain part of the course and saying, oh, reincarnation isn't real. Well, you could make an argument for that too. It's not, because the world isn't real, right? So, yes, that is what the course is saying, people. It's not saying that it's not real within the dream. It's saying it's not really real because our existence is just eternal. It's just extending love eternally. It's not lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. But in the meantime, it does tell us that we think we are living lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. It is a trick of the ego. It's something to keep us stuck in guilt and on the hamster wheel of, uh, playing out these parts. So I just want to point that out, that you could make an argument, for both.
yeah.
Yeah, it appears to be real within. It's also not real because it is a dream.
Because that brings to mind the thing where it says, how did the separation occur?
That's right. That's right. It didn't.
It's, yeah,
It's infuriating to new course people, particularly, to have that answer. Because it's always coming from the ego perspective, the
Yeah.
frustration, because they want to
Yes.
nail it down. Tell me exactly how. No, time is not linear. The story is not linear. It never happened. You
mm,
just are dreaming that it happened.
And if you try to explain it, then you're making it real. So you can't even try to explain it because, first of all, you can't, number one. Number two, because then you're making it real. And I love what you both just shared, and what you shared, Leon, is one of my favorite quotes. The memory of God comes to the quiet mind. And it's like the memory of God's love comes to the quiet mind, because that is the love that we're talking about here. This prayer, he
mm,
told us last week when we read paragraph 4 that there they became your gifts to him, this true prayer, for they tell him that you would have no gods before him, no love but his. And then this paragraph, we just read paragraph 5, that this is the stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving.
mm,
It is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There is nothing to ask because there is nothing left to want. That nothingness becomes the altar of God. It disappears in Him. So it's in that love that we can't describe here. The love of God is not anything of this world. It is that all inclusive love that we get close to when we think about, we see the face of Christ in every brother and we remember God. We accept the atonement for ourselves. I accept the atonement for myself. I heal my mind. When my mind is healed, the world is healed. It's one mind. So we get close to it here, but it's like, what's that old saying? Close but no cigar. So we want that love. We want that all-inclusive love. We want that feeling of just that that love. And so what I do in my daily life that, and this is something that, is easy for anyone to practice, is just practice seeing the same interests. We have the same interests here. And another thing that a friend said to me, and I keep it close to me, you say in addition to rather than instead of. Simple things like that, like in addition to what you said. Don't say instead of, because then you're separating. It's
Mhm.
adding, it's addition, it's joining, it's what do we have in common here? It's not that I'm better and you are worse, or I know more and you know less, or it's it's just joining together as one mind, sharing the love that we are. And this is what this is speaking to me so beautifully.
Great
Beautiful.
tools. Great tools again, because you could think that that's quite a simple thing in addition to, but what that symbolizes and what that represents in terms of extending and joining and sharing is the
Yeah,
whole deal.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
When
everything.
you were saying that, I was thinking of the words and but. I catch myself
Yeah,
sometimes because we're so
yes,
used to saying but this, but that. And when I can remember, I use the word and. Be,
yes,
everyone can have their own perspective, you
Mm,
know, and we don't have to deny other people's perspectives to express ours. It's kind of like, knowing the course and practicing the course. We don't have to convince everyone else of what it is to practice it ourselves. We just stay in our own lane and do our own thing. There's only one of us anyway, and the biggest contribution we can make is with our own mind. But I wanted to add to what you were saying, Leon, before about you repeating, there is no Leon.
mm,
I had a client recently who was asking for my help, and I feel bad for her. She's so young. She's only 26, but she's been studying spirituality for quite a while, and she really understands about non-dualism. And but I could tell that she was feeling guilty about identifying as herself in this lifetime. And one of the ways that I tried to explain to her that this is not necessary in order to awaken. You don't have to feel bad about identifying as the person that you are in this lifetime. It allow yourself to be the vehicle that Holy Spirit expresses itself through.
yeah.
You don't have to think of yourself as I'm separate and I'm special, the way that the course talks about it, but you can still be your seemingly unique expression of yourself within your avatar, but allow Holy Spirit to channel through you. And then you're using that unique expression of who you appear to be in this lifetime for the purpose of awakening. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing to feel guilty about. And in fact, it's a way. I'm bringing this up because to me, it seems like an important thing for people to heal when they're practicing the course. And just
Mm,
watching this young woman go through this difficulty, with her mind of trying to make sense of all
mm,
of this, think about it. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay to celebrate the so-called uniqueness, the special, flavor or frequency that we appeared to emanate in a particular lifetime, because it was all Holy Spirit's plan to begin with. So if we just use those so-called gifts that we appear to have in this false pretend, ego body, then we're doing it for the right reason. And the truth of the oneness is that we really are is everyone together.
mhm.
So those gifts are everyone's gifts.
Yeah.
So we don't have to deny them, is what I'm trying to say. We don't have to try to squash it down and say, I'm not going to be Brianna, identifying with Brianna as Brianna is bad. No, I'm never going to do that.
It's
Besides, I don't practice guilt.
what, what
I'm not doing that.
what's interesting. What came to mind then as well was like an echo of what you were describing earlier about the semantics of, like, the same thing presented over and over in all these different ways, to in addition to.
Yeah.
And um, so for the purpose of facilitating the memory of God to come to the quiet mind through contemplation of the individual not being permanent but appearing to happen at the moment, if you do clear the blocks to your awareness of love's presence so that Holy Spirit can talk through you, then you are not,
Right.
that's a completely valid angle. And between the three of us here, if the three of us do that, doesn't mean that one of us should vanish because we're trying to refine and hone this into just one single voice. This is one single voice in three different echoes. So it's important to not invalidate yourself as a unique conduit through which the voice for truth and love can radiate outwards to someone else. Music would be a great example. The three of us could be given the same song that we interpret differently, and therefore the way that we interpret it is going to speak to three different groups of people rather than one interpretation, which didn't reach some people because it wasn't in line with what their particular taste is, if you like.
And it's going to mean something different to all those people who hear it. So let's
Yes.
you're in alignment with Holy Spirit, right, Leon? And you have a song come through you. Okay. That's already healing you, right? Your avatar self by doing that. That's healing, right? To
Mm.
allow Holy Spirit to work through you. Then, as others hear that song, it's going to affect each seeming avatar differently, and it's not your business or your job to be concerned about how they're receiving it. That's all in Holy Spirit's plan,
That's
Yeah.
right.
because we are all one. So we can still celebrate the beauty of the uniqueness of who we appear to be in our avatar at the same time as knowing that we are all part of the oneness. We don't have to feel
Yeah.
separate in doing that. We don't have to do it from an ego, separate attack, defense, judgment perspective. We can do it from a, kumbaya, we are all one. And here I am doing my part, as we're singing together our kumbaya. It's cooperation, it's doing it together. And we're not in charge of it. Holy Spirit is. All we need to do is step aside. That's why it's always telling us you need to do nothing. Just step aside and be the channel.
Mm.
And then as you're being the channel, Holy Spirit is taking advantage of your unique qualities that you appear to have in this avatar that Holy Spirit came up with to begin with, by the way. Now you're doing your job. Now you're allowing Holy Spirit to use you for your purpose, which
Mm.
is a miracle worker, which is to awaken to the light, and the truth.
And to not try and consciously direct the miracle.
That's
Correct.
right.
And I
That's
was
right.
just thinking about my hand surgery. I could sit and focus on it and try to heal it and send it light. And I'm not saying that any of that's bad. It's just not what Holy Spirit guides me to do. My guidance is to, I care for it the way I'm supposed to. I'm wearing my brace. I do the thing, I do all the stuff, but I don't take it seriously as it's happening. It just doesn't mean all that much to me. It's just like, oh, a piece of my avatar is a little wounded right now and it's going to heal. And I trust Holy Spirit to heal it. I trust that, I am perfection, not my body, because my body's not real, but the essence of who I am is perfection. And so I will allow Holy Spirit to channel that perfection through me, including, whatever appears to happen with my hand as it heals. So I just, again, allow it to go in the flow of Holy Spirit and just don't make it real or take it seriously, but
See,
still
this
go through the, yeah.
Beautiful.
this is another reason why I trusted Leon's inspiration with bringing the three of us together, because you, Brianna, are such an inspiration to me because we're both going through physical stuff right now, right? And I'm
Yep.
still identifying with my body. I mean, I see that, I notice it, and I still allow that this is my biggest classroom. Right now, I notice when I'm still, I'm never upset for the reason I think, but right now, I think it's my freaking body that's pissing me off right now. And so I take it back. I go to Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. I know it's not my body. I know it's not my body. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there every day. But you're an inspiration to me because of your going through it and not identifying with it is so helpful to me. And also, I just wanted, of course, I got to go to the course because Leon, when he said about the conscious control, that's miracle principle number 5. Miracles are habits and
Mhm.
should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided. Why? Because the ego is involved. They are natural. They come natural. A conscious control is controlling it through the ego. The other thing that came to me when you were both talking about the body and that, we should be grateful for this body, grateful for what this body can do and how it does extend love and the purpose that it's giving us here in form, expressing our gifts. And so in Manual 12, how many teachers of God are needed to save the world came right to me in paragraph 4. Yet what makes God's teachers in their recognition of the proper purpose of the body? As they advance in their profession, they become more and more certain that the body's function is but to let God's voice speak through it to human ears.
Wow.
Wow.
That is the purpose of the body. I mean, that's so wonderful. That's like, whoa, right? So, this is the proper purpose of the body as we advance in our, healing of the mind. We recognize that it's letting God's voice speak through us to human ears because we are human here. We are in form, and the spirit is our higher self and what speaks through us. And I mean, if it wasn't for the Holy Spirit, I swear to God, I said this before, I probably put a gun to my head, because of this physical body has been a prison in so many ways. And now it's becoming my classroom. It is my classroom, not becoming, it is my classroom, but it was a serious prison that I felt like just like terrible. So that is the miracle. That is the shift in perception. That is listening to the Holy Spirit and not taking it seriously, not identifying with the body, knowing that it's just getting me through and not comparing myself. That's my biggest classroom. You're not comparing myself with other people that can do things that I can't seem to do right now. The only thing I can do is compare myself to myself and the progress that I'm making. And damn, I'm doing pretty good actually. So
Yes,
you're,
you are.
you're an inspiration too.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the gratitude, just recently, like I said, I this hand was injured and now I've injured this hand because I overextended it because I was doing everything one-handed. And suddenly it's come to my awareness how important hands are. Never occurred to
yeah,
me before. Never thought about it. Always had hands that just worked, never thought about it.
yeah.
So, what does a situation like that do? It makes me feel really grateful for hands, for working hands, and then it makes me feel really grateful for all the other parts of my body that are working right now. And um, like you said, it's the gratitude. So no matter what position you appear to be in your avatar body, in your avatar life, there's always something to be grateful for. And as soon as we do that, as soon as we're feeling grateful for whatever it is, you know um that helps us form that habit that you were talking about of identifying with spirit, identifying with God, knowing what is true and real, not not being and this is one of the things that I think is kind of tricky for people, not being grateful from an ego perspective oh, I'm collecting things. I've got this thing. I've got a great body that works great. I've got, money. I've got this, that, or the other. You can see all of that from an ego perspective. And now we're not awakening when we're doing that. Or you can be grateful for all of those exact same things, but from a Holy Spirit perspective. And now you're in the right frequency. Now you're in the vibe of awakening. That might be difficult for someone to understand the words I just said, because it sounds like I said the same thing twice, but I didn't. And you guys understand what I'm saying. There's a
It's
huge
beautiful.
difference
Yeah.
between making things real, like you're collecting things because you're lacking something, or being grateful because you feel the flow of eternity coming through you. And you know that no matter what, you're always going to be okay. And in this now moment, you appear to have this body or this life or whatever, and you're grateful for the flow of it in this now moment, if that makes sense.
Of
That makes
course it
sense.
does. It makes perfect
Beautiful.
sense. You've helped me to tie a couple of things together, both of you as well, because I was thinking about prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There's nothing to ask because there's nothing left to want. And then one of my favorite bits as well is from the psychotherapy pamphlet, and it says,
Mm,
divided goals alone can interfere with perfect healing.
mm,
One wholly egoless therapist could heal the world without a word, merely by being there. No one need see him or talk to him or even know of his existence. His simple presence is enough to heal.
mm.
Beautiful. Yeah. They talk about that, Art and in Person, one of Gary's books, about how most of the people in the world who have awakened are not famous, not known, never heard of. Um, but it's totally doable. It's doable by all of us, and it is happening all the time. And this desire that so many of us have to be helpful, to be truly helpful, to go out into the world and save people, save things, whatever, it's obviously that's going in the wrong direction, because then we think there's lack and we think there's people that need to be saved and so on and so forth. But that desire comes from our true essence, our true nature of who we really are, which is love, which is this oneness, which is the healing of our one split mind. So when we're wanting to go out into the world to save someone, or save a friend or a family member, whatever, yes, it's misguided by ego in that moment of making it real and thinking that person is lacking something. But if we can see where it's really coming from, which is our desire to heal, our desire for oneness and love, we can shift that perception over to Holy Spirit and still want to be giving all this healing and love, but we're doing it within our mind now by practicing forgiveness. And that is so much more powerful. From the ego perspective, we don't get that. We think we have to go out, we have to do things, we have to talk to people, we have to, save the world. But the truth is, the most powerful thing we can do, it requires no talking, no action, no movement whatsoever. It's simply going within and practicing forgiveness and remembering that everyone and everything is the light of Christ, is the one child, the one innocent child of God. That is so powerful. And I really do want people to understand that, because the people who are drawn to the course, the people who are spiritual to begin with, they're loving people. They want to love themselves, they want to love others, they want to give love to the world. That's kind of their nature. It's why they're even attracted to spiritual teachings to begin with. So it can be confusing in the beginning with all this talk about, nothingness and the world isn't real and we're just an illusion and we don't really exist. It can feel kind of frightening and kind of defeating in a way. Well, God, well, how am I going to fight against that? Or how am I going to heal anything or anyone with that? How do I? It's not true. We need to take ourselves out of all of that fear and take ourselves away from that ego way, that perspective of looking at things, and understand that there is nothing to heal. It's already been healed. And the biggest, most powerful thing that we can do is to practice that habit within our mind of knowing that everything has been healed and that we are all one and we are all love, that it's already done. And by doing that, we are healing everyone. It's not just words, it's super powerful, and it really does work.
Yeah.
Sounds like true prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it.
Absolutely beautiful. And it does heal. And people feel that. The
Yeah.
people actually do feel that. And that's when we can accept our brother regardless. Like I share that with my daughter a lot because she's going through a lot of stuff right now, and just seeing the light in her, just seeing the beauty in her, seeing past all the physical stuff that she's going through, because we're both going through it,
Mhm.
and I'm able to see that. And so I wanted to share, of course, I have to go back to the course, but Leon shared about, the therapist just being there. This is also this is everything, just being there. We can be that loving presence. We don't have to say a word, as Brianna said. We just leave that space, and that is being the presence, not the person. And I do that a lot with my daughter. And he tells us in the function of the teacher of God, in the manual for teachers, in section 5, in the third, there's three different sections. The first one is, let's see, the perceived purpose of sickness. The second is the shift in perception. And the third is the function of the teacher of God. This is an excellent section, this whole thing. But he tells us here that just what Leon said, this is just in addition to. Uh, so he says, to them, the teachers of God. God's teachers come to represent another choice which they had forgotten. The simple presence of a teacher of God is a reminder. It's the simple presence. It's just being the presence, not the person. I mean, my daughter will go on and on and on. I'll let her rant, I'll let her rave. I will not say a word, and I don't have to say anything. I don't have to judge it. I don't have to comment. I don't have to fix her. I don't have to do anything. If she asks me, I will give her the best of my ability through Holy Spirit what's given to me to give her. And it's just that's what we're doing here. And then to what Brianna said about the light, one of the most beautiful lessons to me is lesson 108. To give and to receive are one in truth, which is also true prayer, which is also true forgiveness, right? So he tells us here that vision depends upon today's idea. But in paragraph 2, he says, true light that makes true vision possible is not the light the body's eyes behold. It is a state of mind that has become so unified that darkness cannot be perceived at all. And thus, what is the same is seen as one, while what is not the same remains unnoticed, for it is not there. That's everything. Yeah. I mean, this is true. This is true forgiveness, true prayer, true light, true vision. This is like it. That's like in a nutshell. It's the all-inclusive love of God that we're talking about here. I just get amazed every time I read that, and every time I see that and I think of that. It's just that's exactly what you were talking about, Brianna. It's
Yeah.
the light that we extend to each other. And when I see it in my brother, I see it in myself, and vice versa.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Um, One of the visuals that I will use to try to explain how the separation appeared to happen is if you imagine like in cartoons, like in the newspaper and stuff, cartoons where they use the speech bubbles and they use thought bubbles. So if you imagine like the square of a comic, okay, and that square is just white light. All right. So that would be our reality, just, all white light, extending love eternally. That's our true home. That's heaven. That's who and what we really are. But within that existence, we had a tiny thought, a tiny mad idea. And then boom, that's when the thought bubble comes. Okay. So if you have the little circles and then the and then the oval for the thought bubble, we had this thought, I wonder what it would be like to be separate from God.
Mhm.
And because our thoughts are so powerful, they're just as powerful as God's, as the course describes to us. We made a world within that bubble. And we have been living, our mind has been living in that bubble or think living in that bubble for eons of time. Where in truth, all we need to do is pop the bubble and boom, we're right back into the light that was there the whole time. We just literally sequestered ourselves into this oval thought bubble. Okay. And like I had said before, if you turn that thought bubble into a ball of yarn, we are now unraveling it and mentally reviewing it through what appears to be eons of time. When really, when we had that little thought and made that thought bubble, it instantaneously popped and we instantaneously went right back to God and thought, oh, what a silly idea we had. Boom, it was over. And that's what happened. And that's where we really are right now, is just this oneness, this light extending forever. But we think in our mind that we're in that thought bubble. And that's why we feel separate. And that's why that world makes no sense with our reality of who we really are, because it was just a crazy little thought and it's not even real. So that's one of the visuals I'll use sometimes to
I
try to
love
help.
that. Yeah.
Superb. Yeah. Loads of tools and practical stuff coming out tonight. And just to circle back on the conversation and to bring up Buddhism as a comparative system to the sort of the foundation that the course sits on, really, and atheism as well. Interestingly, when you do pursue the non-dual model,
Mm-hmm.
a great example would be the Buddhism at the peak of the pyramid. There's the nothingness of, there's no godhead or figurehead, and that's the beautiful thing about the course as well, is that the definitions of God are like from the Tao Te Ching and the Upanishads and all of the great systems that, the moment you try and describe it, the moment you try and define it, you've lost it. It's beyond words. That's why the course says we won't try and talk about the meaning of love, because that's beyond words. But interestingly, then the parallels of the non-dual system with atheism, where it's like, well, when I die, I just disappear into nothing, and that's it, and I'm gone, and it's like, yeah, I'm with you there. What do you mean? You believe in God? Yeah, but this is like, I make the comparison sometimes of Einstein and Newton with space. Newton used to look at space and go, well, it's all space but out there, but it's dead. It's like static. There's nothing in there. And then Einstein comes along a couple of hundred years later or whatever and goes, yeah, it's all space, but if you can zoom in, the whole thing's fizzling and cracking and popping because it's alive, but so it's encoded with all of that information. So in that white light that just extends forever, unbroken, that lovely passage where it talks about the circle, and the edges disappear and there's nowhere that the light is, wow. It's not dead, it's not nothing, it's everything. All information is encoded, all love, all truth, all of the changelessness of truth extends forever in all directions, but beyond characteristics. And yet, I say that as Leon to Brianna and Karen, and we all know what we're pointing to mentally by engaging with that thought, but we can still only engage with that thought through the lens of a individual self. But what we can do is, when we reduce our investment in the wrong mindedness of thinking that we're separate, then we get closer and closer to that approximation of eternity, which is in the now, and then the salvation being the escape from all of those concepts. And then to reduce it down even more, that bit in the course where it says your mission is simple. You're just to live as to demonstrate that you're not an ego.
Yes.
Right.
Like, what? It's like, yeah, there you go. Your mission is simple. It's like, so, and bringing in that stuff, Karen, that you shared from Function of God's Teachers about the body, and what Brianna was saying to explain to her younger student. It's like, we don't invalidate all this stuff because you give everything over. The
That's right.
perception's
That's right.
total. It's like, you can't you can't see through the ego lens 99.999% and keep a little bit for Holy Spirit and vice versa. It's either if there's a guy that I spoke to once and he had a brilliant thing and he said, if you're looking in a room, if your feet are pointing into that room, you're in that room. And I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. It's like, you can't do any of this stuff partially. It's either 100% in that mode or 100% in the other mode. But yeah.
Have you ever heard the phrase, we are non-local beings having a local experience?
No, I haven't heard it like that.
Not like
Not,
that, but yeah,
yeah.
like that.
That's what
Yeah,
we are.
that's it. That's good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
I love what Leon just shared about how the Holy Spirit uses everything. And that's something the Course does repeat a lot. So it is all to give over to the Holy Spirit because the Holy Spirit meets us where we are. It doesn't matter. And he talks about that so gently. It's such a gentle process. He wakes his children gently. And when you were talking about the thought bubbles, I was thinking about that when you said, all you got to do is pop it, right? Which is true. But and in addition to, I'm very mindful of my words these days. So, and the Holy Spirit, Jesus, inner teacher, will gently pop that bubble. Gently, when you're ready, because you don't want to be in fear. He doesn't want you in fear. And that's the one thing he
That's
tells
a
us
much better
that
description. Thank you for that correction. Thank you.
no,
Yes.
no, 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 no. It's just as beautiful as yours. I just wanted, in addition, to add that because the Holy Spirit in this course is so gentle and he tells us that, he meets us where we are and he uses everything. He tells us in chapter 25, which I love. Chapter 25 is a great section, the special function. He says, such is the Holy Spirit's kind perception of specialness, his use of what you made to heal instead of harm. It's healing. We're harmful to ourselves. We're dangerous to ourselves. Our thoughts dangerous to bodies? Yes. If we're going to believe and identify with the ego, with these thoughts, it's dangerous. I mean, my husband committed suicide because of the thoughts. I mean, this is what the insanity leads to. I mean, and it's just insanity. So it is so helpful to remember that, I can see this differently. I am not a victim of the world I see. These are not my real thoughts. And that idea is repeated over and over in the course, just in case we didn't get it, just in case, we didn't get it the first time. He repeats it over and over in many different ways because that was a game changer for me because
Yeah.
I really did believe my thoughts for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So that is the game changer, and that is the healing. That really is part of the healing. Knowing that they can come and they can go. I don't have to be attached to them. I can laugh at them. You know, I don't have to believe them. That's everything.
That's
Holy
brilliant. Because if you think the
Spirit.
memory of God comes to the quiet mind and the Holy Spirit is the conduit for the memory of God, what I've
Mhm.
heard with what you just said then is like the Holy Spirit going, oh, wow, you created an ego. Amazing. Right. I'm going to use that to help heal you.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that goes along with what Holy Spirit said to me when you were just talking right now, Karen, when you mentioned and this is probably going to sound a little harsh from an ego perspective, but hey, I'm just channeling Holy Spirit here. When you talked about your husband committing suicide, what Spirit said to me in that moment is that we are all committing suicide when we are identifying with ego. We're
Yes.
all killing the true nature of who, or trying to kill it. It's not possible. The true nature of who we really are. So it's like, there is no such thing as death. So your husband didn't go anywhere. He just, took a different turn in his dream,
Yeah.
than you and I and all three of us have, at least for now. But there is no difference between what he did, choosing to exit his life, and what we are doing with our mind, choosing to exit our life, because our life is the oneness, the wholeness, the love, the light. That is our life. And living within the ego's perspective, as the Course tells us over and over again, is death. So we are all choosing death whenever we are choosing ego.
Yes, absolutely. 100. And that goes along too with what Leon said about that we are here to demonstrate we are not an ego. That has nothing to do with demonstrating physical form. And that's why what you said is so important because there's no difference. It's all in the mind, and murderous thoughts. And this is hard concept too for people to really get, but those murderous thoughts are no different than actually committing murder. If you think about it, because we are committing murder every time we have these murderous thoughts.
Yeah,
That's a hard concept for the ego to grasp,
it
but it's
is.
never, it's just never about the body. And
Mm.
that's a unlearning, constant
And
unlearning.
honestly, that's why the body is here, is to show us that it's not about the body. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
pretty ingenious way of teaching us that. Give us this
yeah,
thing that's going to
yeah.
constantly deteriorate, break down, not be perfect, the way we want it to be. And that is a perfect way to understand that nothing of this world is going to be that kind of perfection. It's never going to happen because this world is insane. And all perfection is to be found in our truth. So the more I practice the Course, the more I live the Course, the more obvious it becomes within my illusory dream what's happening here. And I do understand how I was lost in the details for so long because there's so many details, there's so many distractions in the world and life in general. So I don't blame myself at all. I totally see the path, the journey. And now I'm just so happy to be able to live the Course from this perspective of awakening. And I'm excited for, what Holy Spirit is, what's the rest of this adventure that I'm on. Even if this body dies, it's just going to have more adventure, more places to go to awaken and to heal. That's fun for me now. Where for the longest time practicing this Course, yes, it was a place of peace. It was something that sort of grounded me and made me feel safe and good, but I was still constantly frustrated because I was constantly living a double life. There's what the Course says and what I know to be true, and then boom, I'm thrown back into my life again, the problems, the issues, the whatever. So I was always living this double life. And I have finally gotten to a place where they've come together. And not to say that I'm perfectly forgiving all the time. Of course, I forget, I'll make things real, but it's typically very brief that is happening before I remember to forgive. And it's just such a pleasant way to live. And none of it's me. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not great, wonderful, I'm not getting praised by God or anything like that because I'm special or different somehow. No, no. I'm just awakening to the truth of who I am, the truth of who we all really are. And it's really beautiful and amazing, as the Course is always telling us. It is a love that could never be described or experienced within this world. And all we have to do is step out of the way, and then it's
Yes,
there.
you are allowing God's voice to speak through you to human ears. That is what you're doing. That is your purpose here. You're helping other people by listening to that voice. And that's what we're all here to do. And that's what our special function is. Our special function is it's all forgiveness. And
Yeah.
this I just noticed in this paragraph 6, you were talking earlier about how this is all about forgiveness. This reminds me too of forgiveness in paragraph 6, where he says, this kind of prayer we're talking about here is not a level of prayer for that, everyone can attain as yet. We're all working towards it. Not everybody's there, but those who have not reached it still need your help in prayer because their asking is not yet based upon acceptance. So it's
Mhm.
about acceptance. Acceptance is for me, like that is forgiveness right there. It's based it's when we're not accepting things. We were talking about that early today. I was saying Mickey had a great teaching today
Mhm.
on Pal Talk. She's a friend of ours. We both know her name's Mickey. She's a teacher in ACIM Gather, and she taught really a good teaching today. And she shared about um, that lesson. I forget the number of the lesson, but it's let all things be exactly as they are. That is acceptance. And that is what true prayer really is. It's just letting all things be exactly as they are. And I told her, I'm going to practice that all day today. And I've been doing it all day. And when I practice it with my body, it is so helpful because, like you said, I've been saying this for years, Brianna. I've been saying that my body is teaching me that I am not this body. That's what it's teaching me continually. It's a never ending teacher. But when I can accept all things exactly as they are, it's just acceptance. It's I don't get the upset. I don't get the resistance. I don't get the all the other emotions that go along with it. There's just too many to name. But that's all it is. It's
Yeah.
acceptance.
Brilliant. And
And when I talked
also,
about going back, I'm sorry, when I talked
that's
about
right.
going back, I just want to clarify this so no one's left feeling confused. Going back and forth between the two lives, the my spiritual existence and my ego existence. The reason that I'm at where I'm at now with bringing all of that together is because Holy Spirit's plan was to take a bunch of the stuff that was in this ego of life of mine and take it away.
Yes,
So it was
yes.
through the trauma. It was through losing a lot of my ego identity of who I thought I was and what I was supposed to be doing in this lifetime. And it
Mhm.
was that radical acceptance, accepting things as they are. That set me deeper into my spirituality because as it was happening, I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? I don't deserve that. What is going on? But so after I was done freaking out about all of it, I had to come to this place of radical acceptance of this is happening. And it's so insane. It's so crazy that the only explanation is that this was the plan. So, okay, I radically accept Holy Spirit. I'm just going to go with it. Yeah, it was super painful to switch from ego to spirit, but thanks for the boost up, booster seat, like a little toddler sitting in a booster seat into spirit by taking away the training wheels that I kept to keep riding along in the ego, little help constantly to be doing that, stay on that track. No, we took the training wheels away. We ejected her off the bike entirely and put her over into the world of, light and love. And that only happened because I appeared to lose a whole bunch of things that were keeping me stuck in my ego identity. So, it doesn't always look all, oh, like angels and roses as it's happening. But the reason that things like that appear to be necessary within our classroom is to have that radical acceptance to change your perspective. If everything's all rosy and easy within your ego life
Right.
all the time, you would have no reason to ever change anything. You would just
That's
stay
right.
with your training wheels going, okay, I'm doing the ego thing. Here I go. Ego's making this so easy for me to ride this ride. It's to propelling me forward into this all the time. And I'm so happy that all of that was ripped away from me to force me,
Mhm.
on my ass at first, right? Imagine falling off a bike on my, which I've done in real life and it hurts. To do that, that's so interesting because when I did actually fall off on my bike, it was right when all of this was happening. So see, again, I'm not doing any of this. I just let Holy Spirit speak through me. And next thing I know, it's like all tied together. All the synchronicities are there. So at the time that I actually fell off my bike is when all of this was happening. And I needed that thud. I needed that. And listen, a lot of physical injuries came along with that fall as well. Um, and it was all there to teach me. So I'm so grateful today for those traumas, so-called traumas happening because it made me dissociate from the fake false world more and more and more and go into the truth more and more and more and also it took all the distractions away, the things that were causing me to get sucked back into the matrix over and over and over again and make it real. It took all of that away from me. And now I just kind of float through life all the time. And but I'm grounded. um I was trying to do the and instead of the but. Maybe a but is better there. But I'm grounded in spirit. So, yes, I'm floating, but I'm grounded in spirit as I'm floating because I'm allowing spirit to always guide me on the ride. I'm riding the wave of spirit. I don't know where the wave's going to go. I don't know if the wave's going to crash out at some point. I have no idea. But what appears to happen in the illusory dream while I'm riding that wave is none of my business. It's up to Holy Spirit, and I'm just going to ride it. And the older I get and the more I deal with all these physical injuries and stuff, the less I care about death. It scares me less and less. Now, if I were in a moment where someone were trying to kill me right now, would I defend myself? Yeah, sure. Our human instinct is to keep our life going. And that's okay. But as far as this overall looming, like you're gonna die, you're gonna die. Oh my God, is
Right.
resist all the time. Yeah, I don't really care anymore. So much stuff happened, and I'm like, whatever. So I'm just grateful.
Well, you bring in the development of trust straight off the page there with that story. When you think about the period of settling down and the
Yeah.
period where you think things are being taken away from you, but you're
Mhm.
just being shown the value of what's truly valuable and what isn't. And that's superb because that's one of the great outcomes of joining like this is to have those words animated and translated so we can read the beautiful Shakespearean poetry from the page and we can realize how we've lived it and then we can talk about those experiences and then that shows that it works and it's a practical course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to go back to a couple of things, Karen, you brought up as well about acceptance and really like the power of turning over in your mind whether or not there's a difference between acceptance and trust, and just allowing yourself to look at that and think acceptance and trust are one in the same. It's just the semantics thing again.
Yeah.
Because you have to trust to accept, and you have to accept to trust.
Yes.
And also, one thing I like to share with people about I let all things be exactly as they are is helpful as well to to look at that. It might be a go-to thing on a lovely sunny day when everything's just right. You've got a nice drink and blah blah blah, and you're outside and the sunshine. You've got some water, and I'm going to let all things be exactly as they are. How are you? That's nice of you. Well, you're having a great time, so why wouldn't you? But equally, it's that across the board application of that
Yeah.
reflection of a form of perception. If things are really bad, if you're having thoughts that you don't want to have, if stuff's going on that you don't want to be going on, I let all things be exactly as they are. You still
Yeah.
apply it to that, and then there's no resistance, and then there's the observation point, and then there's you're not identifying. It's like with Brianna often using the avatar explanation. It's like you're watching the avatar then rather than dropping in to the character and forgetting and being consumed by the role of the avatar. So
Mhm.
it's really important to apply that to not just the lovely rosy moments, but to also apply it to when you're looking at stuff that you feel is against your will or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
Absolutely.
don't resist. Just let all things be exactly as they are and just trust and accept that there's something much bigger than what appears to be happening going on. It's just about identification.
Yeah. Yeah. And before all that trauma had happened in my life and it looked like a lot of things were being taken away, the years leading up to that, I appeared to be building something really beautiful. And while I was having that experience, I was thinking to myself, oh, I did this because I practice forgiveness. All this beauty and these, this life, this beautiful life that I have built for myself happened because of the course, because I'm practicing forgiveness. And then it all got taken away. Was like, what the fuck, Holy Spirit? What are you doing? I do not deserve, right? So before, when I was thinking, oh, this happened because I was practicing forgiveness, little did I realize that was an ego identification. That was still ego. And I see people do this with the course all the time, including myself, which is we start doing what this a song of prayer, this true prayer is talking about, where we're becoming one with God, where we're understanding that everyone is this love and light, the innocent child of God. We feel that feeling. It's this beautiful feeling. Then we become inspired within our avatar, within our dream life, and then we do something, and then it may have wonderful results. And we're like, oh, I got to figure it out. I know how to do it. And as soon as we do that, we're right back in the ego because we think we're manipulating spirit to get things that we want, the happy dream that we want in the world. But that is not what the course means when it's talking about the happy dream. It's talking
No,
about no matter what appears to be happening in your dream, because in the dream of duality, there's always going to be ups and downs. No matter what appears to be happening, you are always at peace.
that's right.
That is the happy dream. And that's what I had to learn. And I didn't even realize that I was as identified with the ego as I was, even when my life appeared to have a lot more love and light and happiness in it. I have tons of love and light and happiness in my life now, but just in a very different form within the
Yeah,
world it was once upon a time. And spirit made all of that happen so that I could learn all of that. So, from an ego perspective, it looks like destruction happened, trauma happened, things were taken away, but that's not true. Beautiful, amazing things were given to me. That,
yes. And your freedom, which is
yes.
better than anything. And you're getting in touch with spirit
Yeah.
as much, right? And what keeps coming to me is lesson 25. I don't know what anything is for. I don't know. And I trust because I don't know. This is all happening perfectly. All things work together for good. There are no exceptions except in the ego's judgment. And the other thing that came to me when you were sharing about the happy dream, I said this earlier today at a morning meeting. Um, the happy dream for me lately has been, the happy dream is going from the prison to the classroom for me because this world was a real prison for me for a while, especially after my husband's suicide. And then all these things started going wrong with my body, and like major shit, man. Like all at once, I was hit with so much stuff. It was like overwhelming, but I do not know what anything's for. It became a classroom from learning acceptance, from learning forgiveness, and then from learning true forgiveness. The true forgiveness that nothing happened, that I made the whole story up. And I kept telling it over and over and over again. No wonder I was in a major depression. Hello. I mean, I was diagnosed with major depression disorder. Well, I kept living this over and over in my mind like it was still happening. And so all this was happening for me. It was a terrible, horrible thing. But the other thing that came to me is also the book, trying to think, it's by Robert Schwartz. He talks about your soul's plan. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but he talks about the pre-birth planning.
Mhm.
Now, this is something that I also do believe in, and that's just me. And I know, a lot of people might think it's woo or whatever, but it's also the script is written. The script is written, and we pick this. We chose everything that's happening to us now. You chose your husband, you chose your wife, you chose your mother, you chose all of it was already figured out. So why did I choose such a difficult classroom? He said, because you were a courageous soul who
Right.
came here to learn these lessons. You were courageous. That is courageous. So he turned it around. I felt like this idiot. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why would you want this pain? No, you're courageous. You are, it's like that song, Roar, and it's courageous to come here to want to learn these lessons. It's difficult classroom, but this is how I chose to learn. And look at Eckhart Tolle. He learned in a very difficult way. I mean, he wanted to commit suicide himself. Byron Katie, look at how she started out. I mean, all these really good teachers started out in hell
Yep.
and then learned to see the heaven and everything because of the hell they went through. The hell brought them to the heaven. So I'm also grateful for it. And I'm grateful that I lost everything that I lost because I gained so much awareness. It's not material things because I had
No.
more material things. I had more material things before. I had more everything before. I lost all that. But it doesn't matter. I didn't have the awareness that I have today. So that is the true prayer for me. Just in a nutshell right now. I'm just so grateful for that.
Beautiful.
I don't, in addition to what you've both said, I'm not going to say anything because I feel like what you've said there combined is, yeah, sums it all up for all of us, really.
Well, what I want to say to you, Karen, is that little did you know that you're a superhero, you
Mm,
know? Like you are
Oh,
doing
that's
very
so
heavy
cute the way you said
lifting. It's true,
mm,
though. It's
yeah.
true. And that is what you just expressed. I'm just putting different words to it. Your soul came here with this lifetime already pre-planned. Now, at the top of that, planning, of course, is Holy Spirit. It's already all done. But our soul is another piece of us that thinks it's separate, right? It's got to plan certain lifetimes and stuff. It's just a part of the wholeness and the oneness, is the whole game that we're playing. But yes, our soul picks these things. And because you are a superhero of a soul and have lived a lot of lives and have a lot of knowledge, you picked this life because you knew that it would have the most impact on your
Mm,
own mind as far as awakening, which then awakens everyone else's mind. So that's why I'm saying you're a superhero and you
Mm.
didn't even
thank you.
know
Thank you,
it.
sister. You're just seeing a reflection of yourself as
I know.
well. Yes, you
I
are.
know. All three of
We
us. I know. We're
thank
all
God
super.
we are all superheroes. Thank you. That was beautiful.
All the
Of course.
best superheroes don't know that they're a superhero either, and they have to have it pointed out because they're just coming from a lovely, pure motivation.
Yeah.
But that was beautiful.
Guys, wow. Yeah, I think we've done that more than justice. That's absolutely fantastic.
Agreed. Beautiful.
So, next time we've got the ladder of prayer.
Mm.
Wonderful. But yeah, some really beautiful, powerful sharing, loads of lovely honesty, and lots of practical applications for the toolkit.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
I love
you
it.
very much. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Very healing.
it is very healing, really inspiring. Thank you.
I love you guys.
Yeah,
Love you
love
too.
you. Be well.